It's a beautiful day to be alive. Here at the peak of recorded human civilization.
Oh no, that's just what we go.
Do you know who Akira The Don is?
Of course, he's amazing.
One of the things I tend to do is to look at symbolic representations through the lens of evolutionary biology, rather than assuming that these representations are mere superstitions or play no functions. Like, we have the idea that there's a deity that's father-like. So it's a disembodied spirit in some sense, that's eternal, that has eternal characteristics. It's like, okay, well, strip it of its metaphysics, if you strip it of its metaphysics, and just look at it as a biological phenomena. It's like, well, what might the idea that there's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. What might that be a reflection of? Well, it's like, well, there's you imitating your father, but your father imitated his father, and his father, and his father, and his father imitated his father. So in some sense, what your father actually imitated was the pattern of fathers across time. And you can think of the transcendent father as the pattern of fathers across time. When a child imitates his father in pretend play, when I'm pretending to be my father, I'm observing my father across multiple situations, and then I'm abstracting out the commonalities in behavior and attitude across those situations that make him father. And then I incorporate that and dramatize it in my pretend play. It's unbelievably sophisticated. And so it's what the child is doing in pretend play is coming to embody the disembodied spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. And so you think, well, that is a disembodied spirit. It's a disembodied spirit that's incarnated in the collective of fathers across time. And what is that? Well, it's a judge, that's for sure. It's a judge. Even when you interact with the hierarchy of men who are currently alive, something can be abstracted out of that. It's like the patriarchal spirit. And if you don't think that's judging you, you are not thinking. It's absolutely judging you. That's what rank orders you in a hierarchy. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father. There's an eternal spirit of the Father, spirit of the Father.
Can be real father figures for me. I have such a desperation for that energy and that connection in my life that I will latch on to people or put them in a place where, oh, I gotta tell you this. So I saw my dad in a dream when I was in Hawaii, or in Maui. Sorry, when I was in Maui. It was really crazy because I hadn't seen him in 20 years. Even in a vision. You know, and I had to ask dream, you know? And Robert De Niro was there, and Matthew McConaughey was there. And we were in Maui. My dad was in one room eating at a table, and Matthew McConaughey and Robert De Niro were in another room. And my dad wanted to come and meet Matthew McConaughey, but he didn't want to meet Robert De Niro. And so I was trying to like mediate between the two of them. And finally, my dad and Matthew McConaughey got to meet each other, which doesn't mean anything, but it was just interesting to see my father. I hadn't seen him. I saw my dad in a dream. I saw my dad in a dream. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. Even in a vision. I saw my dad in a dream. I saw my dad in a dream. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. Even in a vision. You know, I'd seen him in pictures, and I'd seen him in just, you know, imagination what he looked like or something, but I hadn't seen him really. And it made me think that my dad lives in Hawaii or something, you know? Like, I was like, oh, is this where he's been? And it made me think, well, of course this is where he's been. This is where I would be. It is stunning. But yeah, I got to see my dad, man. I got to see him. It was I just didn't know. I didn't know that he's been in Hawaii or been, you know, that he's been there. And he was healthy. He was healthier looking than I'd ever seen him in my whole life. That's what's wild. He was kind of thicker, he'd been eating. His hair was darker. And he was laughing, man. He was laughing. Play it cool or be cool, I guess. I don't know. I mean, he lives in that world, in the subconscious or in dream world. So I have no idea what his life is like there. He may drive a Corvette. I don't know. I didn't see, the parking lot or anything like that. I just saw just him. I saw my dad in a dream. I saw my dad in a dream. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. Even in a vision. I saw my dad in a dream. I saw my dad in a dream. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. Even in a vision. I saw my dad in a dream. Been on this kick where I've just been trying to stay more motivated, and like when it's time to get up, it's time to get up, and I need to do things, and I want to have more experiences in my life. Recently I've just been realizing like I do a lot of stuff, but it's a lot of the same things, and I'm not really having a lot of like new experience, and so I want to have a little bit more of that. Man, I wish I'd have just laid back down and tried to go right back and see him. Wherever he was, but it's just so funny. I mean, I've slept in the past 20 years, I've probably fallen asleep in, 42 states and 15 or 20 or 30, countries. And not once did I see my father, and then, bam, I'm in Maui and there he is.
Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place.
Akira.
Just keep moving. You will come to a better place. Just keep moving. Better place.
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take one place, it becomes rigid and still. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nation will help you become whole.
It is usually best to admit mistakes when they occur, and to seek to restore honor.
Perfection and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love.
Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place. Just keep moving. You will come to a better place. Just keep moving. You will come to a better place.
People see me and think I'm weak. They want to take care of me. But I can take care of myself by myself.
You sound like my nephew, always thinking you need to do things on your own without anyone's support. There is nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you. There is nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you.
Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place. Just keep moving. You will come to a better place. Just keep moving. You will come to a better place.
Every lecture I've ever given has included my tribute to my Uncle Alex, my brother's kid brother, who was a graduate of Harvard and a wise man, a distant insurance salesman in Indianapolis. He was childless. But what Uncle Alex found objectionable about so many human beings is that they so seldom noticed it when they were happy. And so we would be sitting under an apple tree, for instance, on a July afternoon drinking lemonade and, talking about this and that, practically buzzing on honeybees. And Uncle Alex would stop everything and say, wait a minute, stop. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. And so he would do that again and again, and it was very good advice, and I've taken it up. And I hope that you will take up this habit too, of noticing when things are really awfully nice and say, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. And say, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. If this isn't nice,
man such a problem?
Well, weak people are a problem, in general. That I don't mean physically weak. I mean cowardly and deceitful. I'm thinking it more in terms of moral weakness. There's a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, let's say, then someone else has to do it. And that's not good. If you don't pick a forthright and useful and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence, and then you tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it. And that's not good. So it's a mistake on all fronts. It's not good for you, it's not good for your family, it's not good for the community. It's certainly not a good medium to long-term strategy, because life is very, very difficult, and you have to be prepared for that. That's strength. And necessary. The other night at my lecture in Oslo, and he wrote me a letter. He was a 17-year-old boy. His father had died suddenly about 6 months before, and he found his dad when he was dying and was very, very shocked and horrified and hurt by what had happened. And I had recommended on my YouTube lectures that one thing you could aim for was to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. And so that's what he did. And he helped his mom, and he wrote a 200-word eulogy and got through it. And so, good for him. That's strength. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. That's strength. And necessary. I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. One of the things that's so sad about what I'm doing, I'm going all around the world, and I'm talking to many, many people. I've talked to about 250,000 people in the last 6 months, and I offer encouraging words, that I believe that people are stronger than their misfortunes. I believe that if you turn around and confront the vulnerability that's part and parcel of life, you'll find within yourself a strength that will transcend that. I believe that not only to be true, but supported by the best clinical evidence. It's important for lost young people, male and female alike, to develop a vision and take on some responsibility and understand that they have a vital role to play in the world. The lack of their best hurts everything. And the sad thing is that there's very many people who have not heard an encouraging word in their life. It takes so little to encourage them that it's rather place. I was struggling. I've been watching your lectures. I've been reading your book. I put my life together. I'm trying to be responsible, tell the truth. Things are way better. Thank you. Can't get any better than that. So, and that's... Can I start?
Once he'd reached them. Indifference is superficial honors. Listening to anyone who could contribute to the public good. His dogged determination to treat people as they deserved. A sense of when to push and when to back off. His altruism. Not expecting his friends to keep him entertained at dinner or to travel with him. And anyone who had to stay behind to take care of something always found him the same when he returned. His searching questions at meetings, a kind of single-mindedness, almost, never content with first impressions or breaking up the discussion prematurely. His constancy to friends, never getting fed up with them or playing favorites. And his advanced planning, well in advance. And his discreet attention to even minor things. His restrictions on acclamations. And all attempts to flatter him. His constant devotion to the empire's need. His stewardship of the treasury. Willingness to take responsibility and blame for both. His attitude to the gods, no superstitiousness. His attitude to men, no demagoguery. No currying favor, no pandering. Always sober, always steady. Never vulgar or a prey to fads. No currying favor, no pandering. Always sober, always steady, never vulgar or a prey to fads. Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, strength, perseverance, self-control. Hard work and persistence, self-reliance always, cheerful strength, perseverance. Material comforts that fortune had supplied him in such abundance, without arrogance and without apology. If they were there, he took advantage. If not, he didn't miss them. No one ever called him glib or shameless or pedantic. They saw him for what he was, a man tested by life, accomplished, unswayed by flattery, qualified to govern both himself and them. Both himself and them. His respect for people who practiced philosophy, at least for those sincere about it, but without denigrating the others or listening to them. His ability to feel at ease with people and to put them at their ease without being pushy. His willingness to take adequate care of himself. Not a hypochondriac obsessed with his appearance, but not ignoring things either. With the result that he hardly ever needed medical attention or drugs or any sort of salve or ointment. This in particular. His willingness to yield the floor to experts in oratory, law, psychology, whatever, and to support them energetically, so each could fulfill his potential. He respected tradition without need to constantly congratulate himself for safeguarding traditional values. Not prone to go off on tangents or pulled in all directions, but sticking with the same old places and the same old things. The way he could have one of his migraines, then go right back to what he was doing. Fresh and at the top of his game, that he had so few secrets, only state secrets, in fact, and not all that many of those. The way he kept public actions within reasonable bounds. Games, building projects because he looked to what needed doing and not the credit to be gained from doing it. No bathing at strange hours, no self-indulgent building projects, no concern for food or the cut and colour of his clothes, or having attractive slaves. He never exhibited rudeness, lost control of himself, turned violent. No one saw him sweat. Everything was to be approached logically and with due consideration, in a calm and orderly fashion, but decisively with no loose ends. You could have said of him that he knew how to enjoy and abstain from things that most find hard to abstain from and all too easy to enjoy. But to be strong enough both to bear the one and be sober in the other is the mark of a man with a perfect and invincible soul. Hey. But to be strong enough both to bear the one and be sober in the other is the mark of a man with a perfect and invincible soul.
People say things like, I do this in a kind of self-deprecating way. Well, I've been lucky in this, that. And you know very well that a lot of life is luck.
Akira.
But then a lot of it is, and it's underplayed, you also work hard. I realized some time ago that because I'm born in Britain, I have that natural tendency to like underplay something. Well, I'm just lucky in that. And somebody said to me, you shouldn't do that. You do work very hard. And I thought, yes, but saying, well, I've been lucky in that is a nice way to say to other people, oh, I haven't really had input and you don't need to particularly either. It's a flattering thing to say to somebody else, which ignores the wonderful phrase of Branch Rickey I came across. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design. A lot of what we call luck, it has come about through something other than chance. I used to say, you're lucky to be born in America. And on one level that's true, which is like, you could have been born in the great pool, you could have been born in Mogadishu, and it'd be a lot worse. But there's also something it covers up, which is the luck is that people before you made good choices that meant that you are in a situation which is more optimal. And it's not simply luck that you have in America the right to freedom of speech. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design. It's the consequence of men and women making good decisions. Men and women making good decisions. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design. We have to find a better way to understand what we often mean by luck. You have luck in your life, sometimes because other people have made good judgments that are effectively for you before your time. your politicians, your family and others. It's not just some wild whirligig. It's also make prudent decisions, make wise decisions, work hard, and a lot more. And you'll find that you are what we call lucky, or luckier. Don't do any of that stuff. Put everything off all the time. Be lazy, unmotivated, blame other people all the time for things that things you could correct yourself, and you will find you are the type of person that is described as unlucky. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design. It's the consequence of men and women making good decisions. Men and women making good decisions. Luck is the residue of design. Luck is the residue of design.
Well, I was obsessed. When I was 25 or so, I probably weighed about 138 pounds. I smoked like a pack of cigarettes a day. I drank a tremendous amount of alcohol. My friends were heavy drinkers, and most of them dropped out of school by the time they were 15 or 16, went off to work on the oil rigs, and it was a rough town, and we drank a lot. I started when I was 14, and I had a lot of bad habits, and I wasn't in great shape physically. I was also still intellectually obsessed, as I am now. That would have been in 85. But I decided around then, about 85, 84, something like that, that I was really going to try to get my act together. So I started doing that. First of all, I quit smoking. Well, that took a long time because I eventually had to quit drinking too in order to quit smoking. And I started working out, started playing sports, which I'd never done. I was a small kid. I'd been skipped a grade and I was small for my age, so sports were never really a domain of expertise for me. Although I skied and went trapping with my dad, 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 trapping with my dad. What kind of relationship do you have with your father? Your real father? It's often ambivalent, right? There's an element of him that encouraged you, hopefully, because without the encouragement of your father, man, the world is a dismal place. It's very difficult to be a courageous person unless you have your father in body and spirit behind you. Because if your father rejects you or doesn't form a relationship with you, it's as if the spirit of civilization has left you outside the walls as of little worth. It's very difficult for people to recover from that. So the father should be an encouraging force, but can be a tyrannical and crushing force. And that's a very difficult thing to get right. If you're my son, then I should impose the highest standards of behavior on you. And I should always be judging what you're doing. I should be judging it with the aim of making the best in you come forward. But getting that balance exactly right is very difficult. It's like the mother who's too overprotective. I'll never let anything happen to you. It's like, well, maybe you actually want to have something happen to you. It's like, no, I'm going to make you strong so any number of things can happen to you. And when you need some care, I'll be there. But otherwise, like out into the world with you, that's the right attitude. And for the father, it's like, get your bloody act together. Dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad. I'm on your side. It's not because I want to destroy you or demean you or push you down in the dominance hierarchy, but because I want the best in you to emerge. And so you need standards. It's like, what are you doing wasting your life? There's way more than that to you. Get your act together and bring it out. And that's a message that people really want to hear if they have any sense at all. And generally, they do want to hear it. One of the things you can do for young people that no one's doing is to talk to them about responsibility. Everyone talks to young people about rights. It's like, we need our rights. It's like, oh God, how many rights do you need? You know, really, like you have more privileges than any people who've ever lived anywhere. Well, it's so dull to hear that. It's so dull. It's so pathetic and demeaning that you have to be protected and have your rights. There's a huge marketplace for responsibility. That's what you want to talk to young people about. It's like life has meaning with responsibility. The more responsibility you take on, the more meaning your life has. And the higher degree of responsibility that you agree voluntarily to try to bear, the richer your life will be. And no one's ever told that, and it's the case. Dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dad, dropping with my dropping with my dropping with my dad.
Damn, son.
You have 4 kids, say, well, that's plenty of responsibility. You're gonna have meaning. It's gonna be rough, you know, because it's complicated. You have a complicated job and you try to help the careers of the people around you. You try to solve tough problems and aid suffering and do all of that. It's like, it's weight. It's responsibility. There's glory in it. There's real glory in it. There's deep meaning in it. And young people are starving for that because no one ever tells them that. It's like, you're way more than you think, man. Stand up. Do something difficult. Do something difficult and heroic. Burst out of your bonds. It's like, that's a good message. It's a necessary message. Because we have to be more than we are. Because if we don't, we're not going to survive.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Akira The Don. Simply impeccable. A lot of people say, oh, I just want to they're kind of dabbling in the idea of improving themselves. And the real way to do it is you got to write down what the fuck you want and then go after it. You are in the part of the movie that starts and it shows you as a fucking loser. Just decide not to be a loser anymore.
Just decide not to be a loser anymore.
Okay. Live your life like there's a documentary crew following you around and you are analyzing your own behavior. Do what you would want to do so that your kids one day would look back at it and see that documentary and look on it with pride, like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. My dad was a bad motherfucker. He really did what he had to do. Wow, my mom really got her shit together. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. And the way to do that, you gotta write shit down. You gotta think that you are the hero in your own fucking movie, and then you gotta sit down and you gotta write shit down. Write down what you need to do.
Most people play the role of the victim in the movie.
Sure, yeah, this life is fucking me over, man. I could have had this and I should have had that. And why does this guy guy get that? And why does that guy get this? All things that are completely unrelated to you. All things that you find other people's success is a downfall in your own existence. Instead of being inspired and choosing to be positive, trying to achieve whatever the fuck you have written down, you just sit around and spiral. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. There's nothing more miserable than sitting around someone who's fucking complaining all the time. It is one of the most annoying things ever. Everybody hates it. When someone just sits around and they complain about their life and they don't do jack shit about it. And you tiptoe around it, you don't know what to say. Well, she gets upset when you bring that up. I don't want to bring that up. And you want to go, you fucking crazy bitch, you know what's wrong with your life. Stop announcing it to everybody else and go out and fix that shit. Fix that shit. Fix that shit. Bitch, you know what's wrong with your life. Stop announcing it to everybody else and go out and fix that shit. My dad was a bad motherfucker. He really did what he had to do. Wow, my mom really got her shit together. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story. Those are my favorite stories. Those are my favorite stories. Like, wow, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Those are my favorite stories. I love a success story, but even more than a success story, I like a dude who fucks his life up and then gets it back together again story.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. And risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. Hold on. If
my son, my son.
Dream my 5-year-old nephew had. Now, you gotta get the context of this dream, right? Year after this dream, parents were divorced, so there were dragons in the house. He was about 4 at this time. He was running around the house with this little plastic knight helmet on and a sword. He's zipping around killing things with it. Doing this all the time. And even when he went to sleep at night, he'd put the sword by his pillow, knight helmet on his pillow. Now, every night, or every second night, or every third night for 6 months, he'd been waking up screaming. So I was there one night when he woke up screaming. Next morning I said, well, did you dream anything? And so he launched into this story. He said he was in this field and these little creatures, like dwarf, were coming up to him and they didn't have any arms, they just had legs. They had big beaks and they were covered with hair and grease, and on top of their head was a cross. And there's lots and lots of these dwarves and they were jumping on him with their beaks, biting him. We all looked at him and thought, well, it's no wonder you're waking up screaming, right? I mean, you know, that doesn't sound so good. And then he said, well, wait, there's more, right? Back in the distance, there's a dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. And the dragon is puffing out fire and smoke. Fire and smoke, fire, fire and smoke. And every time he puffs out fire and smoke, turns into these dwarfs. Big problem, right? Just like the problem with the Hydra in Greek mythology. Cut off one head, 7 more appear. What are you gonna do about these dwarfs? Kill one, big deal. 10 more are coming. What can you do about that? In a legal trial, that would have been an inadmissible question. That's called leading the witness. Because what I told him was, despite the horror of this situation, you maybe could do something about it. And he said, I take my sword, I get my dad. That's a good idea, right? There's the real dad, and then there's the tradition dad, right? You might as well have your father by your side if you're gonna go into battle. I'd take my sword, I'd get my dad, I'd go to where the dragon was. I'd jump up on his head, I'd poke both of his eyes out with the sword, I'd go down his throat to the place where the fire comes out, I'd cut a piece of that box out, and I'd use it as a shield. Wow! Well, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable that he could do that. It's perfect, right? There's no sense going after the dwarves, because thousands of them. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. Might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. What happens if you go after the dragon? You get a piece of it. A piece of its center nature. A piece that can defend you against anything, including other dragons. What if this was the case, evolutionarily speaking or religiously speaking? What if we were adapted to the world? You know, what if it's not the simple place of dead objects that we think it is? What if it's something a lot more alive, a lot more like a story? What if the story is something like this? You have absolutely everything you need. but you have to use all of it. If you run away from any of it, you don't get that piece of the dragon. If you miss even one piece, there's a chink in your armor. There's a place where you're vulnerable. If you make even one mistake, you lessen yourself. If you lessen yourself, you're going to run away more. Not only that, when someone wants to lean on you, they're not going to be able to lean on you because you'll just fall over. What if it was the case that we were adapted to the world, really adapted to it, so that if we made full use of all the talents we had, we'd be okay? What if it was the case that if we set out consciously to never run away from something we know we shouldn't run away from, that everything would be all right? Well, you can think whatever you want to think, but this is what I think. I think it's bloody amazing that that little kid's book had all that information in it. And so you might ask yourself, if that information isn't true, how the hell did it get there? That's it. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. Might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. You might as well go after the dragon. Go after the dragon. Forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed shall be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. I remember thinking about this story. It's got to be 30 years ago. I think the meaning of this story stood out for me. When you read complicated material, sometimes a piece of it will stand out. It's like it glitters. That might be one way of thinking about it. You're in sync with it and you can understand what it means. And I think I understood what this part of the story of Noah meant. What nakedness meant in the story of Adam and Eve. To know yourself naked is to become aware of your vulnerability, your physical boundaries in time and space, and your fundamental physiological insufficiencies as they might be judged by others. There's biological insufficiency that's sort of built into you because you're a fragile, mortal, vulnerable, half-insane creature. That's just an existential truth. And so to become aware of your nakedness is to become self-conscious. That's what is revealed to Ham when he comes across his father naked. And so the question is, what does it mean to see your father naked? And especially in an inappropriate manner like this, it's as if Ham, he's insufficiently respectful of his father. And the question is exactly, what does the father represent? And you can say, well, there's the father that you have, and that's a human being, that's a man like other men. But then there's the father as such, and that's the spirit of the father. And insofar as you have a father, you have both at the same time. You have the personal father that's a man among other men, just like anyone else's father. But insofar as that man is your father, that means that he's something different than just another person. And what he is the incarnation of the spirit of the Father. And to see that, to disrespect that carelessly, Noah makes a mistake, right? He produces wine and gets himself drunk, and you might say, well, if he's sprawled out there for everyone to see, it's hardly Ham's fault if he stumbles across him. But the book is laying out a danger. The danger is that maybe you catch your father at his most vulnerable moment, and if you're disrespectful, then you transgress against the spirit of the Father. And if you transgress against the spirit of the Father and lose respect for the spirit of the Father, then that is likely to transform you into a slave. A slave. That's a very interesting idea. It's particularly germane, I think, to our current cultural situation. We're pushed constantly to see the nakedness of our father, so to speak, because of the intense criticism that's directed towards our culture, the patriarchal culture, so to speak. We're constantly exposing its weaknesses and vulnerabilities and, let's say, nakedness. There's nothing wrong with criticism, but the thing about criticism is the purpose of criticism is to separate the wheat from the chaff. It's not to burn everything to the ground, right? It's to say, well, we're going to carefully look at this. We're going to carefully differentiate. We're going to keep what's good and we're going to move away from what's bad. But the point of the criticism isn't to identify everything as bad. It's to separate what's good from what's bad so that you can retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. So that you can retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. And to be careless at that is deadly because you're inhabited by the spirit of the Father, right? Insofar as you're a cultural construction, to be disrespectful towards that means to undermine the very structure that makes you not all of what you are, certainly a good portion of what you are. If you pull the foundation out from underneath that, what do you have left? You can hardly manage on your own. It's just not possible. You're a cultural creation. You're a cultural creation. Retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. So that you can retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it, so that you can retain what's good and move towards it. Retain what's good and move towards it. And so Ham makes this desperate error and is careless about exposing himself to the vulnerability of his father, or something like that. He does it without sufficient respect. And the judgment is that not only will he be a slave, but so will all of his descendants. And he's contrasted with the other two sons who, I suppose, are willing to give their father the benefit of the doubt, something like that. And so when they see him in a compromising position, they handle it with respect and don't capitalize on it. And maybe that makes them strong. That's what it seems to me. And so I think that's what that story means. It has something to do with respect. 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 You know, and the funny thing about having respect for your culture, and I suppose that's partly why I'm doing the biblical stories, is because they're part of my culture. They're part of our culture, perhaps, but they're certainly part of my culture. And it seems to me that it's worthwhile to treat that with respect, to see what you can glean from it. And not kick it when it's down, let's say. It has something to do with respect. 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 It has something to do with respect. 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 So that's how the story of Noah ends. The thing too is Noah is actually a pretty decent incarnation of the spirit of the Father, which I suppose is one of the things that makes Ham's misstep more egregious. I mean, Noah just built an ark and got everybody through the flood, man, you know? It's not so bad, and so maybe the fact that he happened to drink too much wine one day wasn't enough to justify humiliating him. And you know, I don't think it's pushing the limits of symbolic interpretation to note on a daily basis that we're all contained in an ark. You could think about that as the ark that's been bequeathed to us by our forefathers. That's the tremendous infrastructure that we inhabit, that we take for granted, because it works so well, that protects us from things that we can't even imagine, and we don't have to imagine because we're so well protected. So there's a line in the New Testament where Christ says that no one comes to the Father except through him, which is a hell of a thing for anyone to say. I am the way and the truth and the life. That's another one. Here's the idea. It's as if there's a spirit at the bottom of things that is involved in the bringing to being of everything. People talk about evolution as a random process, but that's not true. The mutations are random, but the selection mechanisms are not random. What are the selection mechanisms? Human females are very sexually selective. That's why you have twice as many female ancestors as male ancestors. So the male failure rate for reproduction is twice that of the female. How is it that males succeed differentially? Females reject. They reject on the basis of what? And the answer is, well, it's something like competence. How is competence defined? Well, men put themselves in hierarchies and they vote on each other's competence. Let's say you decide to follow the best leader in a battle. Well, then you don't die. Like, he might get all the women, but you don't die, so at least you're still in the game. And it might be the same if you're following the greatest hunter. And the greatest hunter wouldn't be the person who was best at bringing down the game. It would be the person who was best at bringing down the game and sharing it and organizing the next hunt and all of that. What that means to some degree is that there's a spirit of masculinity shaping the entire structure of human evolutionary history. That's what that means. It's the spirit of positive masculinity that manifests itself across epochal ages, millions of years perhaps, and it actually has shaped our consciousness. Actually, it's like the essential spirit of all the great men who defined what greatness constituted. That's a spirit. Well, that's a purely biological explanation. Well, that's God. God is the highest value in the hierarchy of values. That's God. God is how we imaginatively and collectively represent the existence and action of consciousness across time. That's God. God is that which selects among men in the eternal hierarchy of men. That's God. God is that which eternally dies and is reborn in the pursuit of higher being and truth. But then there's another possibility too, which is that that's actually reflective of a deeper metaphysical reality that has to do with the nature of consciousness itself. I think that's true. I believe the biological case, and I believe the biologically reductive case, but I don't think that exhausts it. There's a metaphysical layer underneath that the biology is a genuine reflection of. And that's the macrocosm above and the microcosm below. We are really reflective, including in our consciousness, of something about the structure of reality itself. And that might involve whatever it is that God is. Well, that's God. God is the future to which we make sacrifices. That's God. God is the voice of conscience. That's God. God is the source of judgment and mercy and guilt. That's God. God is what calls and what responds in the eternal call to adventure.
There's no chance for you, son. Why the best books have not yet been written? The best race, it hasn't been run. The best score, it hasn't been made yet. The best song, it hasn't been sung. The best tune, it hasn't been played yet. Cheer up, for the world is young. No chance, why the world is just eager for things that you ought to create. Its store of true wealth is still meager. Its needs are incessant and great. It yearns for more power and beauty, more laughter, more love, more romance, more loyalty, labor and duty. No chance, why there's nothing but chance. For the best verse that hasn't been rhymed yet. The best house that hasn't been planned. The highest peak hasn't been climbed yet. The mightiest rivers aren't spanned. Don't worry and fret, faint-hearted. The chances they have just begun. For the best jokes they haven't been started. And the best work it hasn't been done.
was young. For the best verse, it hasn't been rhymed yet. The best house, it hasn't been planned. The highest peak hasn't been climbed yet. The mightiest rivers unspanned. Don't worry and fret, faint-hearted. The chances they have just begun. For the best jokes they haven't been started. And the best work, it hasn't been done.
I love you, Dad.